greet everybody. You're going to start?
And then you come in after that?
No, you're going to start and then introduce Ken. Ken is going to speak for just a moment, and then he's going to start. And then we'll have the intermission, and then Kim will come to call them back together. So whenever you're ready.
I'm going to play the first piece as soon as he introduces me.
Perfect.
And then I'll get up.
And then you'll say something. Perfect. I think I like that better.
Silence is wonderful. Welcome to all who have come to this magnificent building for this memorable event. My name is Joe Wilson. I've been here in my heart for 70 years. The building itself is 100 years old. And I want to say, welcome to my sanctuary. Let that hang for a minute. And it's been my sanctuary since 1955. I've been to many funerals here and many weddings, 2 of my own weddings, that is. I haven't done funerals here. And the reason I call this my sanctuary is because it's always been here. The church has always been here for me. My favorite saying is, I'm not leaving until they close the doors or kick me out. So I am probably one of the largest, I won't go any further. Over the last 100 years, I've claimed this space for 70. Not necessarily physically being here, but my heart has always been here. I'm hopeful that you'll find this place a sanctuary for your feelings. Also, with that in mind, I'd like to introduce a man who's going to elevate you, bring you joy, and inspire you. May I happily introduce Ken Walsh.
Good evening. It's good to see you here tonight. And I want to thank Riverside Church for this privilege of playing this magnificent instrument that all of Jacksonville should be hearing. It's, as you know, it is Jacksonville's largest church organ, and it has all kinds of wonderful bells and whistles, and I hope to use quite a bit of it tonight. The first piece I'm going to play is called a rondo, which is a dance. And it was composed by Henry Purcell for a weird play called The Moor's Revenge. Everyone's forgotten the play. Everyone's forgotten most of the music. But thanks to Benjamin Britten, who discovered it and composed around it a piece that he calls the introduction to the orchestra, it became very popular again, and it works very well for the organ. So here's Rondo. Since we are soon going to be celebrating our nation's 250th anniversary, I thought I'd add a couple American pieces into it. The first one, which has a strange spelling for fugue, because it is early American. William Selby was a tanner in Boston. He came from England to serve as the organist of the King's Chapel in Boston, which is still standing. And so this is probably one of the first organ selections that was ever composed in the United States, because King's Chapel was one of the first churches in the United States to get an organ. It came over on a boat from Britain. Wasn't very big, so I'm not going to be using a lot of the organ for that. And the second one is a piece that I've become very fond of. It's by the composer McDowell. You may know a piece, if you ever played the piano or have heard To a Wild Rose, which is one of the pieces that every piano student in the world probably has learned. Well, he wrote a series of pieces called C pieces in 1896. And one of them is AD 1620. And it's kind of an interesting piece where you kind of ride the waves with the Mayflower as it rocks back and forth. I have to confess that I am a pure Yankee. I'm a New Englander. I come from Mayflower roots, and so I'm always looking for places to place my hat. And this is one of those that I love to play. It was originally written for piano, but adapts very well to the organ. So these are my contributions to the American scene. We all needed a Dramamine with that one. As many of you know, I am also an ordained pastor and have pastored churches for 42 years. And that's a stressful job. And one of the things that has been my comfort through the years is being able to sit down at a piano or an organ and compose. Now, I love hymns. Hymns are my absolute passion. And maybe sometime we could all get together and have a glorious hymn sing together. That would be a wonderful, in this beautiful space. But one of the things I love to do is sit and improvise and make hymn arrangements. Some were for practical reasons, some not so. For instance, Hymn to Joy, the first one, actually starts out with a run from a Bach prelude, and when it goes into Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, because I was playing for a wedding with 500 guests and they wouldn't leave the sanctuary. And so I invented all kinds of music to get these people out of the building. So that was the first one. The second one I wrote in memory of my mother. It is Well With My Soul. And I had a chance to play it for her actually before she passed, and I always think it's just a very special piece for me. And then finally, I was sitting at an organ like this one day, and I thought, that trumpet stop needs to be heard, and all I heard was, "To God be the glory."
Hello.
She is the wonderful wife of Joe Wilson, who you heard from a little bit earlier. Go ahead and talk.
Good evening, everyone. If you'll excuse me as I glance at my phone occasionally, that was the only place I had to write my notes down of what I wanted to say, so forgive me. Again, my name is Kim Wilson. I've been coming to this church for about 35 years now. My husband was one of the first people that I met at this church, but we didn't get married for about 10 more years. I've been asked to talk to you a little about some of the memories of this church, particularly surrounding the music. And as Ken was playing, one of the things that I remembered, I was in the choir for years, up until probably the pandemic. And one of the things that I loved to do was to be in the choir when the organ was playing those very low notes, because you could feel the floor move and the wood move. And as I was sitting there as Ken was playing, I put my hand on the flat part of the pew, and with the low notes, you can feel the pew vibrate from the sound of the organ, and it's a really unique feeling. One of my favorite memories, the church has always had very classical music in it, and things like Handel's Messiah that we would sing at Christmas, and always ending our church Easter service with the choir singing the Hallelujah chorus, and everybody in the pews joining in. The children and the choir doing John Steiner's God So Loved the World. The choir sang, and the children used sign language to accompany us. Things like having an antiphonal choir, a choir in the balcony and a choir behind me where the organ is, and they would answer each other and sing back and forth. Now we use more praise and worship music than some of those, and still several traditional hymns. But the feeling that you get from just being in this room and hearing the praise that goes on and hearing the organ and the voices is just wonderful. One of my favorite memories, and probably the favorite memory, is on Christmas Eve, everyone in the sanctuary comes to candlelight service. It's usually about 6 o'clock in the evening. And at the end of the service, we encircle the sanctuary, and as we pass the light to each other, we sing Silent Night. And not only can you see everyone's faces that are illuminated then by candlelight, you can hear every single voice sing. Thank you for coming tonight. I hope you enjoy the rest of the performance.
One of the great challenges of this console is when you wear bifocals, is that the music rack sits right in the middle of the crack. And so I discovered I can read music without my glasses on. Several words of the next two pieces. Sir Edward Elgar is probably one of the most well-known English composers. If you've ever walked a graduation, you know Pomp and Circumstance. That was his. He actually